So here we are in the last session of our course Money and Makaan. So far we've explained various concepts and also gone through two case studies of two couples who are planning to buy their home. Buying a home is not just a couple's dream. Anyone and everyone can look forward to buying a home. And in this case study we are going to discuss the journey of Rahul. Yes, how Rahul, an individual, is looking forward to buy his dream home or his makaan with his money. He's an individual who's working in a multinational company. He's working in Hyderabad and currently living on rent. Now he's planning to buy a home, and when he's thinking to buy a home, he's thinking long term and of course looking at a 2 BHK apartment because he is also planning to get married in the near future and is of the opinion that he should have a house before he gets married. And because he's going to be married and moving in with his partner, he prefers to have a 2 BHK apartment. And he knows that the real estate prices in Hyderabad are affordable. So he is of the opinion that with his income and his cash flows, he should be able to buy a home that is comfortable for him and his family. So in this case study, we are going to discuss Rahul's journey. He's an individual, and by just looking at his income, not an income of a spouse, parent or any other support, through his income, how he is working towards purchasing his dream home, what are the obstacles he's facing along this journey, and how he plans to overcome these obstacles by doing one thing at a time. And of course, we as Wealth Cafe and financial advisors are going to be with him through this journey. So Rahul earns 1,43,000 rupees per month, and he's trying to understand what is the value of the home that he can afford with this income. So before we move further ahead, first let's look at his income in hand and how his numbers flow. So his salary or CTC from the employer is 1,81,200. Out of that, TDS of 19,000 rupees is getting deducted each month, which is the taxes that he has to pay, and EPF, that's Employee Provident Fund, of 19,200 rupees is going out and getting invested in his name. So he is left with 1,43,000 rupees in hand each month. So basically each month in his bank account, an amount of 1,43,000 rupees gets credited. Now from this 1,43,000 rupees, it's very important to understand how much is his expenses and how much is he actually saving each month. Now, as we just discussed earlier, he is taking care of rent, other living expenses, and has financial responsibilities. So he is spending 60% of his income each month and is able to save 40% of his income each month. So let's just see what is the further cash flow breakup. I'm sure by now you would have understood that how these cash flow breakups helps you identify various expenses and helps you plan your home purchase in a better manner, because when you see a complete breakup of your expenses into discretionary and non-discretionary spends, you realize that there is a scope where you can move around things to afford your EMIs. So let's have a look at his monthly cash flows. We know that his salary is 1,81,200 rupees, out of which EPF of 19,200 is going and taxes of 19,000 is getting deducted. So his income in hand is 1,43,000. As we just discussed, his expenses for the month amount to approximately 86,000 rupees, which can be further divided into rent of 25,000 rupees, grocery spends of 12,000 rupees, utility and various bills of 7,000 rupees, house help for 2,000 rupees, commute and everyday travel of 5,000 rupees, and discretionary spends, the personal spends, up to 25,000 rupees. Now, apart from these general monthly expenses that he's incurring to lead his life and to have a comfortable lifestyle, he has an additional education loan of 10,000 rupees. Yes, so he had taken a loan for his MBA and he's still paying the EMI for the same. So education loan EMI will form a part of his monthly expenses. Now, after these expenses are removed from his income in hand, he is left with savings of 57,000 rupees. So now once we've gotten an idea of his cash flow, we know that he has enough savings. There's probably a scope where we might be able to move around things for him from his expenses, like once his rent goes away, maybe discretionary spends can be reduced. So an EMI will be accommodative into this entire structure. So we'll come to that eventually. The second factor that one must always check before they take the home purchase decision is their portfolio. So let's quickly look at Rahul's portfolio and what all elements it consists of. It has fixed deposits of 10 lakh rupees, debt mutual funds of 15 lakh rupees, equity mutual funds of 13 lakh rupees, and employee provident fund of 4 lakh 60,000 rupees. So we know that out of all these things, he has some goals. So some money would be kept aside. And even where he has a corpus of 42 lakh 60,000 rupees, he's like he won't be able to use the entire amount for home purchase. He needs to keep aside some money for emergency fund, and also he has another goal of getting married, so he needs to keep some money aside for that as well. So once we've looked at his cash flows and his investments, the first question that is there in his mind, of course, is that what is the value of the home he can afford? And by now you know that this question is answered by the EMI amount that he can afford. And in all cases so far, we keep a standard EMI of 40% of the take-home income, because that number is a comfortable EMI to hold, which will also allow any person to have some savings at the end of the month and also not restrict their lifestyles very uncomfortably, that you don't have money to spend on anything that you desire. So a 40% EMI gives you that flexibility. So we compute the same thing for Rahul. However, if you remember from our discussions from the session value of the home you can afford, we said your total EMI must be 40%. So here where Rahul already has an education loan EMI, that will also be considered as a part of his total EMI. So when we take his income in hand and 40% of that, it comes to 57,200. But from that, we have to remove education loan EMI, because it's a long-term education loan. He has to pay this loan for another 5 years. So that EMI would be deducted from the home loan EMI budget that we have computed. So he can take a loan for his new home with an EMI of 47,200 rupees. So yes, your total EMI still fits within the 40% bracket. Now, when we take this EMI of 47,200 rupees each month and we compute the amount of loan he can borrow by considering a loan duration of 20 years and interest rate of 7.5%, we come to a loan amount of 58.6 lakh rupees. Now, when this 58.6 lakh rupees is further computed to identify the value of the home by taking this 58.6 lakh rupees as 80% of the home value, we arrive at a conclusion that the home value that Rahul can afford to buy is 73 lakh rupees. You can compute this entire number using the tool, what is the value of the home you can afford. Now, once Rahul sees this number, he is in a dilemma, because the locality in which he was planning to buy a house, in that locality only 1 BHK apartments are available under the budget of 73 lakhs. But the apartment that he likes, which is 2 BHK apartment, comes up to 80 to 85 lakh rupees, and the one that he is looking to buy fits into the budget of 84 lakh rupees. So obviously he's in a fix and he's looking if there is any way in which he can afford to buy the house. The house that Rahul can afford is of 73 lakh rupees, but that is a 1 BHK apartment and he needs a house of 84 lakh rupees. So he approaches us, his financial advisors, to guide him if there is a way in which he can, accommodate a home. Now, if we go back to the case study of Key and Ka, where we told them to push their EMI and accommodate a higher EMI within their cash flows, well, that worked for them because they were going for an under construction property and they were okay to wait for 3 years and then move into a new apartment. However, with Rahul, that's not the case. He wants to move into a new apartment as soon as possible, and he cannot wait for the next 3 years by taking an under construction home. So, well, that as of now we park aside, and we look at the second alternative that he can consider for his home purchase, and that is that he can increase his home loan tenure. So your home loan can increase through 3 parameters: when your interest is reduced, where your EMI is increased, right, which we did in Key and Car case study, or when the tenure of your loan is increased. So in this case, we suggest, Rahul, that instead of taking a 20-year loan, why don't you take a 30-year loan and see if that fits into your budget, and you can then buy your home. Well, Rahul really likes this idea, but he was a little skeptical about the whole 30-year loan. So what we first do is we guide him, we compute the house, whether he can afford it with a 30-year loan. And when we do the math, we come to the realization that yes, he can afford to buy the home with a 30-year loan, because his loan amount increases to 67.5 lakh rupees, and eventually the home value that he can afford is 84.30 lakhs. This 84 lakh 30,000 home value is further split into home loan of 67 lakh 50,000 rupees, and he needs to pay a down payment of 20%, which is 16 lakhs 80,000 rupees. So Rahul is very excited, and he's like, yes, this will help me buy my home, and I'm finally able to afford the home that I always wanted. And we highlight that it is very, very important to understand that when you take a longer term loan, you are taking on more responsibility. By a 30-year loan means that he has a liability outstanding for the next 30 years, and it would also impact the total cash outflow that will happen for him overall while he has the home loan. So we show him the numbers and we guide him like this is how you compare, and then we give him the complete picture that he sees that when he has a 20-year loan, he gets a loan of 58 lakh 60,000 rupees, and the total interest that he pays over the 20-year tenure is 56 lakhs 69,000 rupees. So by the end of 20 years, he's approximately paid 1.2 crores for the house. Whereas when he takes a 30-year loan, he can obviously get a higher loan of 67 lakhs 50,000 rupees, but also the total interest that he has to pay 1.2 crores, and the total outflow from him for the house is 1.69 crores, which is a huge amount. And when Rahul looks at his number and he's like, oh my god, this is almost 50 lakh rupees extra that I have to pay for a 10-year extension in my home loan. And we do not deny this, that when your tenure increases because of the compounding interest impact, the interest that you have to pay on your home loan also increases, and hence your liability also increases. So we advise him with one solution, because he's really very keen on buying a bigger home and buying the home of 84 lakh rupees. We give him one option, which is to prepay his home loan. So there is no hard rule. If you take a loan for 30 years, you have to pay EMI each month for the next 30 years. Wherever he has accumulated some savings in the next few years, he can put that towards his home loan, reducing his home loan liability early and thus reducing the interest impact or the interest expense for this entire home loan decision. So obviously Rahul asks us as how is it possible that how is he going to get the money to prepay the loan when he's already struggling to fit his existing loan into his cash flows. So first what we do is we advise Rahul, like, let's have a look at his complete cash flows as to how they're going to look like after he purchases the home. Once he sees that and understand how his numbers are working, then we guide him as to how he can prepay his home loan and how it would impact his overall interest and home loan liability. So his cash flows after home purchase consists of his income in hand, which is 1,43,000 rupees. Now of all the expenses that he has, his rent will go away. So he will save 25,000 rupees from there. So out of 47,200 rupees of EMI that he has to arrange for, 25,000 rupees is taken care of from the rent. Now he only has to arrange for additional 22,000 rupees. So when he looks at his other expenses, he cannot reduce groceries, utility bills, house help, commute, and even personal spends, because he's using his discretionary spends to buy things for his wedding, which would happen in the next 6 months. So even that is an amount that has now become a necessity for him, and he cannot really reduce that. His education loan continues. In fact, when we do his tax calculations, we come to realize that he is spending more in tax. So his tax spends have increased to 1630. So when we do the math, we realize that his total expenses are 69,630 rupees, and this is the best he could stretch himself from a cash flow perspective. So his savings comes down to 26,170 rupees. So of the EMI amount that he needs, 47,200, 25,000 is arranged from his rent, and balance 22,000 is arranged from his savings. And he fits into a comfortable EMI of 47,200 rupees. For maintenance, he doesn't have to bear any charges today because he got a deal from the builder. The builder has given him a discount for the first year of maintenance charges. So this is a pretty comfortable financial situation, cash flows, because from this cash flows, he's also saving at least 18% each month, which is not bad given that he has some long-term goals. He needs these savings to be used for that. Now let's just quickly, before we move ahead and see how these numbers are going to work for him, let's just see how the taxes are working in this cash flow, because this is a peculiar example where he's spending more on taxes when he's buying rather than when he was renting. So given his income, he was in 30% tax bracket. So the HRA he earned was 25,000 rupees each month. So the rent for the year was around 3 lakh rupees. So his taxes saved were 90,000 rupees when he was paying rent and had the HRA tax benefit being claimed by him. Now, when he took a home loan, for the deduction of Section 80C, he was not claiming 1,50,000 rupees, but only 34,800 rupees, because approximately 1,15,000 rupees is getting invested in EPF from his salary each month. So clearly that investment is going on from years, so that he cannot touch. So the ATC impact of home loan is only to the extent of 34,800 rupees. He of course claims the entire 2 lakh rupees from the interest. So when he does, a total of this comes to 2,34,800 rupees, whereas the income that he was saving with HRA was 3 lakh rupees. So clearly the income that he's reducing, or the tax reductions that he's getting through home loan, is much lower, and hence the taxes that he's saving in this case is 70,440 rupees. So when he compares the two, we come to know that he's paying more taxes when he's actually buying a house compared to when he was in a rented apartment. So your monthly expenses to that extent has also increased. This is a practical example to prove and show to you that all home purchase decisions do not lead to higher tax savings. It's a very case specific scenario. So do look at the tax effective tool to compute the final and effective impact of home purchase versus HRA for your home decision. Now we looked at his cash flows, and we know that after home purchase EMI, his cash flows are going to be 40% towards EMI, which is 57,200 rupees. This includes his home loan EMI and education loan EMI. He has monthly expenses of 59,630 rupees. And he is saving 26,170 rupees each month. A saving of 26,170 rupees each month is not a bad saving to have after you've bought a home and you are paying a regular EMI towards your home loan and even your education loan. Now, what will happen with Rahul after he purchased the home is that he can continue to save and invest this savings of each month, and the bonus amount that he receives each year, which is approximately 2 to 3 lakh rupees, and in fact it's way more than that in some good years, he can use that bonus to prepay his home loan. Now usually the bonus amount is not something that you save and invest and create corpus of. In most of the cases, 50 to 60% of our bonus is parked for goals like travel or buying something fancy for the house or buying something good for yourself, basically to celebrate the money that has come. So by looking at the loan amortization schedule tool, right, where we discussed about the entire loan repayment and we also saw the breakup of EMI and principal, there is a column of prepayment. You can put your numbers in that to see variable options for you. So to Rahul, we advise that 4 years from now, save some money and put aside 6 lakh rupees as your prepayment for the home loan, and after a few years you can save more money, and 3 years later in 2028 you can prepay 10 lakh rupees. So because of this prepayment, his interest liability will reduce to 55,76,000 rupees. Also now he may wonder that where will he get the money for prepayment? Well, he can use his yearly bonuses. For that, he's planning to get married in the next few months. So his spouse is also working, so they can, finance the home loan, future EMIs together, or they could have a way in which he contributes towards the financial expenses of the house and he has more savings to prepay the home loan. There are various combinations that are available to both of them. It's just that once he has a partner to live with, his finances could be more easier to manage and they would be able to prepay the home loan comfortably. Just to give a comparative view of how his prepayment would impact his overall cash outflow, when he took a 20-year loan, he got a loan of 58 lakh rupees, but he paid a total interest of 56 lakh rupees. When he took a 30-year loan, he got a total loan of 67 lakh 50,000 rupees and he had to pay an interest of 1.02 crores, right? But when he prepaid 16 lakh rupees, this interest amount got reduced to 55 lakh rupees. So that is why we suggest that there are many factors and permutation combinations which are available to each individual when they're buying a home. So where it gets a little tricky for you to understand how to fit your numbers to achieve your dream of home purchase, it's preferable to consult a financial advisor for the same. Now, with this situation, we see that Rahul is in a decent position and he's in a situation where he can go ahead and buy the bigger home, but he's still not very convinced with a 30-year home loan and feels that it's a huge liability, and if tomorrow anything happens to him, he leaves this liability behind to his family members, and he did not want that situation to be in. So what we do is we push the cash flows a little bit more and we tell him that let's take a higher EMI, let's breach the limit of 40% and let's take a higher EMI which would help you afford to get a loan of 67.5 lakh rupees and eventually buy a house of 84.3 lakh rupees. So we compute that EMI for him, which comes to approximately 45% of his income, and he is now very happy because his EMI comes to 54,350 rupees. He's able to get the house, and we quickly have a look at his cash flows after this is done. Well, his tax spends are still high, rent goes away, and because now EMI has increased, the rent takes care of only 25,000 rupees of the EMI, but his savings reduces to that extent and his savings goes down to 19,000 rupees each month. So in this second option, where his loan tenure has reduced tremendously by 10 years and he may feel comfortable, but his savings each month has also reduced by a huge extent. Now what happens is that, yes, you may say that he will continue to save his bonus now because he won't use his bonus to prepay, but he can use his bonus amount to invest. So he would be more or less in the same situation that he was in option 1 when he had a 30-year loan. So when Rahul looked at option 2, he felt relieved that he does not have to take a 30-year loan and he would, somehow manage his cash flows. and take a 20-year loan, but a loan of a higher value, his EMI would only increase by 6,000 rupees. So this definitely seems more manageable to him, and he still does not want the stress of 30-year loan. But there was one very basic point which was yet to be considered in the entire home loan decision, which was your home loan interest rate. If you remember from our discussions in the session home loan, we explained that the home loan interest rate that you take is generally floating interest rate, right? Which means that the floating interest rate is based on the repo rate, and with any change in the repo rate, your floating interest rate or the rate at which you are borrowing money from the bank also changes. And currently we are in one of the lowest interest rate scenarios. So if the interest rate were to increase from here, which is a possibility to happen in the near future, the EMI of Rahul would also increase. And if he's already in a very tight cash flow situation with the current EMI, any increase in his EMI from here onwards would only get it more difficult for him to manage his cash flows. So what we've done is we've taken an example that where Rahul's interest rate changes, how his cash flows would get impacted, right? So here his current interest rate is 7.5%. So where his interest increases by 1%, it would be 8.5%. So the EMI that he has to pay currently of 54,000 rupees would increase to 58,000 rupees. So clearly his savings would reduce to that extent. And if there is a major change where his interest becomes 9% or 9.5%, the savings that he has each month would reduce below 10,000 rupees. Now that is a very tight situation to be in because any emergency or any need of money in a particular month and you have absolutely nothing left with you. So this is clearly not a good situation to be in, and this is also one of the reasons why we always advise your EMI to be within the 40% of your income bracket, so that if there is any increase or change in your floating interest rate of home loan and your EMI also increases, there is some leg room in your EMI to float and you are not stuck with need of a few thousand rupees each month because your EMI has increased. So this is a very important criteria to keep in mind when you're taking a home loan. Given all these scenarios, we advised Rahul to stick to option 1 and prepay his home loan rather than going for option 2 and be in a very fixed situation a few months down the line when the interest rate might increase. It's basically about taking a calculative risk. Now, of course, there are so many factors in this decision that you and me can never be definitive of, but we have to keep all the criterias in mind, understand all our options and take the best one available to us in the current market situations, emotional situations and home purchasing situations. So from this we learned that there are two ways of planning your home purchase decision when it does not fit into your budget. Is that you can slightly increase your EMI and see if that fits into your cash flow and whether you can stretch yourself to that extent and live a little bit on the edge to buy your home. Or the second option is to go ahead and increase the tenure of your home loan, have a liability for a longer duration, but you're confident with your job and your cash flows and you know that you will be able to prepay it and reduce the impact of longer tenure. So again, these are decisions, when one takes for themselves as to how they look at their money, or when they come to us for financial advising help, we try to understand them and then advise them based on their behavior also. So now we know that Rahul has taken option 1 and he's very happy that he's going to buy his dream home, but he's forgotten about one of the most important things that he needs to check. Yes, whether he has enough savings for the down payment and overhead charges. So Rahul asks us that how is he going to arrange for down payment and overhead charges. We tell him that financial decision of buying a home consists of 2 parts, which is affordability of the loan, which we just discussed, and part 2 is on savings and down payment. So let's have a look at the second one. We know that the cost of his house is 84 lakh rupees, of which registration charges is 84,000 rupees, stamp duty and surcharges of 5 lakh rupees. He does not have to pay any maintenance because he's strike a deal with the builder to let go of the maintenance charges. His brokerage commission is 1%, which is 84,000 rupees. His decoration and furnishing charges comes to 8,40,000 rupees, and he does not have to pay any GST because he's moving to a ready to purchase house. So his total overhead charges comes to 15,10,000 rupees. So the total value of the home that he has to spend, or the total cost to him, is 99,40,000 rupees. So yeah, we always start with the house is around 80 lakhs, 84 lakhs, but by the time all the cost gets added, it approximately came to 1 crore in his case as well, right? So he's going to fund the house as 80% of the base value of the home as a home loan, which is 67,50,000 rupees, down payment of 20%, which goes as 16,80,000 rupees, and balance he has to arrange for as overhead charges for 15,10,000 rupees. So Rahul is like, he has to arrange for 31,90,000 rupees. How is he going to get the money? He has to get married. He needs an emergency fund. He needs to save aside for other goals. How is he going to get 31 lakh rupees? And we are like, okay, relax a bit. Let's look at your contingencies. Let's look at the number and let's see what is our financial position before we lose our sleep for the down payment. So we quickly have a look at his numbers. We see that he needs an emergency fund of 3,87,000 rupees. He's already got a term plan and mediclaim budget of each month, and he has an urgent goal, that is to get married in the next 6 months. Now, because he's buying a home and he really doesn't look at a big flare wedding, so him and his partner are planning to do a small time wedding with not a very high budget. So when we look at his portfolio, we advise him that out of the 10 lakh rupees from his fixed deposit, let's use a part of it as an emergency fund, and balance can be used for his wedding. He can use his debt mutual funds of 15 lakhs and equity mutual funds for the home purchase. Now, as we have advised time and again, that please do not park your money in equity funds or direct equity if you are going to use that money for your home purchase goals. That money should always be in debt funds, because we know that in this case as well, this goal is just around the corner for him. And the balance amount of 4,60,000 rupees, which is in EPF, goes for long-term goals such as retirement. So he is left with 28 lakh rupees that he can use for his home purchase decision. Now he knows that he needs 31 lakh rupees and he has only 28 lakh rupees. So he is in a shortfall of 3,90,000 rupees. So now he's like, oh my god, now I'm in another shortfall of 4 lakh rupees. Can I just take a loan for this and get done with it? Because how much monetary planning we have to do. And we understand buying a home can be very tedious and there can be a lot of numbers to look at. But we advise him against the loan for the shortfall, like a personal loan. It would be difficult for him to get a loan at this scenario for 4 lakh rupees because he already has an education loan and a home loan. There are two ways to look at it. He's like, he does not have parents or any friends whom he can ask for help. He is not very comfortable borrowing money from his friends, which is completely all right, it's each to its own. And so we give him two suggestions that we advise him that option 1 would be to wait out a few months. Yes, it is very much possible that you may be in a situation that you don't have the money to finance your down payment and overhead charges, and you're out of all the options. In such a situation, the best option for you is to wait, save, and come back later. Rahul is at a shortfall of 3,90,000 rupees. So the first option he has is to wait and save for his goals. So to know how much he needs to put aside each month, to achieve his goals, he can look at the tool, do you have enough savings for home purchase? When he looks at the tool and puts his numbers, he knows that he is going to receive a bonus of 2 lakh rupees, which will be adjusted against this shortfall. He comes to a number of 20,645 to be saved each month. Now, given that he is saving 57,000 rupees each month, putting aside 20,000 rupees for this home purchase goal is not a big deal, and he can easily put this aside for the next 6 months to achieve his shortfall corpus of 3,90,000 rupees. So yes, in some situations, it's not always needed to be aggressive and put everything that you own into the home purchase decision. It's okay to wait out, save some more money, and then go into it more confidently. Now, the second option is that he can reduce his overhead spends. It's not a rocket science option, to be very honest. We've kept, a 10% budget for home decoration and furnishing. As 8,40,000 rupees, he can very well decide, I have a shortfall of 4 lakh rupees. Let me just use 4 lakh rupees for home decoration and, only use the things which are important, and I would eventually save and use money for my home decoration and furnishing charges. We know that this is a huge trend that, the moment you buy a new home, you want to spend on furnishing, want to make it look fancy because this is your probably the first home, and when you're living on rent, even putting one painting on the wall can be a tedious task that you have to call your landlord all the time. But you have to also match this dream of yours with your numbers, and in this case where Rahul has a shortfall, either he can delay his home purchase decision, and where he does not want to delay his home purchase decisions, he would have to reduce his overhead spends. This is how it's going to be for most of us, that it's not going to be a straight road ahead that you put in your numbers and you're going to find the house within your budget. For some of us it may be lower than our budget, for some of us it would be way higher than our budget, or it's in a situation where you can probably move your numbers around a bit and squeeze yourself and move around things to fit it into the budget. So do take these case studies and understand various scenarios and various practical fixes that you have to fit your dream home within your budget. But the most important takeaway that we want to share with you from Rahul's journey is that if a home purchase is not possible for lack of funds today, it's okay to park it aside for a few months and save your money for the next few months and come back to it. There are many homes, and I'm sure you will find your dream home and you will be able to move into it. With this, we come to the end of our course, Money and Makaan. We've discussed with you everything from a home purchase decision, that is from the factors that helps you take the decision of buying a home, whether it's comparing between continue to living on rent your entire life or buying your home, or checking the factors that you must know of before you move into your home. You want a balcony home or you don't, you want a garden view, you want a main road view, you want a home which is closer to schools and hospitals, or you want a home which is closer to the metro station. So many such factors and a tool to help you take that decision. And even before you move ahead with that, we helped you answer the 8 financial questions which would help you answer the decision of your Makaan. So we started with telling you what is the cost of the home. Don't forget to consider your overhead charges. Once that is done, know your budget from your savings and your cash flows. Once your budget is taken care of, don't forget taxes, but know that taxes is no longer the deciding factor for your home loan, but one of the benefits. In fact, in some cases, as we saw in Rahul's case, that you may be losing out on tax benefit when you're moving from rent to a new home. Then we discussed about home loan, which is the most important aspect of your home purchase decision, as it forms 80% of the home budget for you. And we discussed various parameters like interest, floating and fixed interest, and we explained that how floating interest rate would change. So where you really stretch yourself for EMI which is beyond 40% at the current interest rate, which is at one of its lowest ever, when the interest would increase, your EMI would also increase, and it could be too much of a stretch for you. So hence your home budget, EMI budget of 40% is correlated to how the interest rates are today, and it may help you to save more today. But if tomorrow interest rates increases, it shouldn't happen that you are in a fix. So after the interest rates, we discussed about tenure, EMI, bank charges. Don't forget to do your research and understand about the same, various types of loan and insurance. So do not forget to get a home loan insurance or a term insurance when you're increasing on your liabilities. After that, we discussed about the roadmap, about having a legal advisor who would do the due diligence of all the property papers for you. Please, please, please pay extra for that lawyer, because you are taking one of the most expensive things ever in your life. And if you have a lawyer by your side confirming and assuring you that all your papers are in place, you would sleep better. Because I don't really have to tell that how many legal cases are running for properties and builders, right? So along with your legal advisor, have a financial advisor on your side who will look at your numbers and guide you better towards the home purchase decision. So it's not that after the home is bought, you have no money left for anything else, but you're in a comfortable financial life. And after you've done all these things, please use the tools, make the most of them, and calculate your home budget and move towards buying your dream Makaan. We wish you all the very best. In the last video of this session, we'll tell you the final takeaways from this course, some homework for you to compute your numbers, and how you and us can keep in touch for any queries that you may have. Thank you. Namaste.